Hey everybody, my name is Jay, and welcome to another episode of Eye of a Samurai. It's been 35 years since we've done one of these. I
Kind
wonder
of
why.
kind of crazy how long that is, given that Soul Calibur hasn't even existed that long.
There were a lot of things that happened before you showed up, okay? And I haven't even introduced you yet. So you stay there. Don't move. But we're doing an Eye of a Samurai today because we finally have offline matches to go into. I'm hoping to do a match for virtually everybody who was at the We Play tournament in the Ukraine. This is going to be the first one. And what can I say about my guest today? His name is Linkorz.
That's my real name too.
I'm introducing Linkorz.
I'm the person that he has mentioned and described in such visceral detail.
You can see him on the left on your screen. He's the tree.
I'm not actually there, but I am on your screen.
He was there at a time. He's no
Well, I mean,
longer
I
there.
wasn't at your screen. I was just in
I
the
mean, it depends on the screen,
that
right?
spot.
There's a chance that you were at somebody's screen at some point
I was
that
never
might be
in
looking
one
at
though.
this. Well, I mean, have you ever seen Tron?
Yeah.
The first one?
When I was very young.
Sure. You sure
Yeah,
you
that
never?
never
You,
happened to me.
you sure you never did Tron?
Yeah, and
You never got Tron?
No, I never did Tron.
Okay, but this also I should mention that this Eye of a Samurai is a little bit different because it's being streamed live on Twitch at the moment. My Twitch link is down below in case you just know me from YouTube. But also this means that anybody who's in the Twitch chat, if you have any questions, actual questions about the match as opposed to the stuff that Link and I are doing now, don't hesitate to ask. It would be solid to have additional content questions that we may not necessarily go over. But this is the first time that we've seen, well, virtually any character do offline stuff for quite some time. This is the first time that we're going to be seeing Amy in her let's say, malnourished form, significantly weaker than she was when somebody won Winter Brawl with the character. But this was your first time playing the character in an offline environment, right?
Uh, in like pretty much, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Like when she came out at NCR, we had like a local there, and I played her in that, but no, it doesn't really count.
And how did you feel about her overall? Because I
At
know
this
you were a little
tournament,
bit worried. Yeah, at this tournament, how did you feel
right?
overall? Seeing as how if correct me if I'm wrong, you were a little bit worried about what kind of practical application you were going to be able to do, seeing as how you hadn't got to play her in an offline environment just yet.
Right. I don't know. I mean, I was worried about that, because it's nice to, with my other characters, I have somewhat of like a
Foundation,
cushion for myself.
right?
Yeah, I can tell myself, well, I've done this before,
Mm-hmm.
like I've actually done things with these
I've
characters, and
been
I
on the back foot before in these situations that are similar, but I haven't done it with this character that
exactly.
has a toothpick for a weapon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But ultimately, I don't know. When it came down to it, I think it was just the character I was most comfortable with the whole time.
Mm-hmm.
I think playing anyone else probably would have led to much worse results,
Sure.
especially given how much I've been playing Amy.
Mm-hmm.
Um, she just felt like what was natural for me, I guess. I'm not
What
really
was it
sure how else
exactly
to it.
about the character that you felt? Because I know, yes, you've been playing the character for a significant amount of time as we've been going through these COVID times, but what actually initially drew you to the character? It's not typically a character that I imagine somebody like you playing.
Uh, I mean, there was like a part of it was like the whole SC5 callbacks they had in the trailer. If I'm gonna be honest with you, I really like that. Like they had like the viola references and stuff, which I
Yeah.
really enjoyed. Um, that in
But
general, but
by the way, Namco, if anybody
right,
listens to this, we appreciate the Viola references. That doesn't necessarily mean we need Viola
yeah,
as a character. It's okay to
yeah,
have the homage and just have it be that. We don't necessarily need. That being
pretty cool.
said, I mean the balance of the game is so tight that the character would be stupid like every other character in this game, but probably wouldn't be more stupid than anybody else.
Right.
I don't know
But
if I
like,
want to take that chance though.
right, I guess past like the aesthetics of her, because I think she's just a cool looking character.
Hmm.
Um, I guess it's that ability to really I guess well, I guess you asked me what initially drew me to
Yeah.
her. Um, which would have been, I guess, just like the way that like she feels very fluid in a lot of ways, I guess.
Yeah.
Like the way the parries just go back into each other and whatnot. Her pokes are very intuitive.
Red
Um,
roses can be chained into other red roses.
yeah, exactly. She feels sort of like momentum-ish and very fluid.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's what I initially really enjoyed about her.
Did you find that there was like hypothetically speaking, if there was like somebody that you ended up watching playing Amy before you played Amy that you found to be some level of like a font of inspiration, so to speak? Was
Uh, I'd say probably no one at all in the entire world would match that description.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess that tracks.
I don't think there would be anyone that might fit that.
So this was in pools, if I remember correctly, or was this bracket?
This is pools.
Yeah, so first to two, which I think everybody agrees is significantly more anxiety inducing than first to three, which you and I remember back from SE5.
Yes.
But a lot of SE6 players don't realize just how much of a difference that one game makes.
It really does.
Yeah. How did you, you're up against Kura. You are a Soul Calibur historian very much like me, except I actually lived it and you just read about it. And so you would know about the legend of Kura in and of himself. Were you nervous at all to play against him specifically, or was it just a general overall experience that you felt in terms of anxiety from being on the stage in front of anybody who was playing?
I'd say mostly just a general
Sure.
sort of nervousness. I mean, obviously Kura is,
Yeah.
a total legend, right?
Yeah.
But I fought a lot of people with a lot of history in the scene. So at this point, it's kind of something I'm used to, on some level at least. So, yeah, I wouldn't say I was specifically nervous to fight Kura over anyone else, but I was excited to fight Kura.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because why not? Yeah.
Exactly.
It's very similar to like when I fought Kura, Ruka.
Right.
It was very similar to when I fought Ruka, however many years ago that was, at in NEC in SE5. I thought that was pretty great too. Had you played against Kura at all before the actual tournament, like in any casuals, the handful of days he had before?
Yes, we had played casuals. We played two different sets.
He played Killick the whole time? Did it seem like he was playing it seriously? Were you playing it seriously?
I'd say we were both playing it seriously. He was playing Killick. We did two sets, one where I played Amy, one where I played Siegfried. And yeah, I think both of us were taking it pretty seriously, because when was the next chance we were going to have to fight each other?
And he played Killick the whole time.
He played Killick the whole time, yeah.
It's always difficult with a game that's as small as Soul Calibur 6. We don't necessarily have the same level of sandbaggery that more popular games get, because more popular games, there's significantly more money on the line, or at least more often, and there are always these kinds of events for other things. So for us, there is one side of it where it's like you probably could / should sandbag, just because you're going to play against this guy in pools. The difference of him knowing this one situation that he might not necessarily have known before could mean the difference of like a bunch of money versus no money. But then also, as you said, I mean, what are the chances that you're going to get to play? There's a relatively good chance you're never going to get to play the guy ever again.
Yeah, absolutely.
Difficult stuff.
Oh.
But you're dealing with Killick as Amy. Have you dealt with this matchup all that much? What are you exactly looking for with a matchup like this?
It's hard to say. I mean, I've played like most of my Killick experience is mostly just like playing online,
Sure,
right? I guess most of my Amy experience in general is playing online, but mostly against just like people in ranked and stuff. In the earlier days of when I was playing Amy, I had played Burgle and Twice a Day a bit.
Yeah.
But that was a good amount of time ago. I'd say my Amy was probably still in her infancy.
In the nation stages, yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry, I wanted to sound smart there for a second.
Yeah, you did great.
Thank you.
So, I don't know. Most of my thoughts, I guess, had come from the casuals we played.
You know, there's a lot of people who would say that Killick actually beats Amy. I'm not necessarily in agreement there, but how do you feel about the matchup overall?
I think it's probably even, personally. It's not like Siegfried, where you have to worry about, in this case, it would be Monument.
Yeah.
Because
I feel like you do still have to worry about Monument, but just not as heavily as you would Basehold.
Yeah, I mean, as long as you're ready to like regi or
Hmm.
RE, it's really not that big of a threat.
Yeah.
There's a few specific situations where it is real, but he has to commit to those situations every single time. Like he can't confirm Monument A; he has to just go straight into it.
Right.
So if you know those situations, um, you can kind of play around them. I don't know all of them to be honest with you,
Yeah.
but Kura
You
does.
may not know them like off the top of your head, but there's a pretty good chance you be able to suss out those situations just graphically, visually while you're playing.
Uh-huh. Well, you'd think so, actually. But so I thought while I was playing this, I thought that if he did Monument against AAA with Amy,
Hmm.
that it was real. You couldn't reach AI because I had been
Uh,
trying. I had been trying the whole time, but I
this didn't pan out.
afterwards I went into training and I was doing it too early, I think, and
Oh, okay.
it's
That kind of
actually
thing
incredibly
always
easy to reach
bothers
AI.
me when that ends up happening, where it you're trying to do something that is failing so often that it gets to the point where you've convinced yourself it isn't a thing, and then you go into training mode and it works fine. I absolutely despise that. That happens so many times online. Ugh. Where I just convince myself, oh, I guess I can't GI. I keep saying impact counter. I keep trying to GI here. I guess I should stop doing that. And then I go into training mode. Oh yeah, I can do this pretty much on reaction every time. So
Yeah,
that's cool. But yeah,
yeah.
there's plenty of people who believe that Killick actually beats Amy, specifically for Monument, where there's definitely been many conversations I've had where people believe me to be hypocritical by saying Siegfried wins the matchup pretty heavily, specifically because of base hold, so by that same logic, shouldn't Monument be the same kind of thing? And it's not just because you have things like RE and Regii. I also think that's something that a lot of people don't talk about is the fact that Siegfried tech crouches during, or he's just crouching just in general when he's doing base hold, and Killick isn't doing that, which provides an additional level of new options, specifically 6BB, to beat out something that Killick is doing as a counterplay to your overwhelming horizontals, where Siegfried just kind of gets away from that naturally.
Right.
I'm a big proponent of using 6BB just in neutral any old time. Maybe not so much anymore because it's a step duck meta, but I mean, hey, if you've got an I-10 against an I-12 character, you might as well use it a whole bunch.
Right. I think another layer to it is just that like Killick is very I don't feel like he has quite the same like damage output as well as like
Siegfried.
as well as like containment
Oh,
as
sure.
Siegfried.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Like his damage output and his containment, I just think are nowhere near as good as Siegfried. Killick can't really force many situations,
No.
so I feel like it's pretty easy to just kind of bully him. On top of the fact that Monument isn't real. So if I had to, I'd say I probably think it's either slight Amy favor or even.
Yeah, I feel like I would agree where like the most amount of favor that you probably get is like a 5.5, 4.5 kind of thing, and I've never been much of a fan of getting that granular with when it comes to character matchups. I think it might be a bit extreme. When you fought Kura in casuals, did you find? I've always found that it's very interesting to see the international take on characters, both how they play against certain characters and how they play certain characters, where you can get used to how Killick is played from Twice a Day, from Burgle and stuff like that, and then you run into somebody like Kura, who, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but that part of the world tends to take neutral to such an upteenth degree that I
Yeah.
almost don't believe it. Like, I believe it in SE4. I believe it in SE5. It's tough for me to understand how somebody can be that comfortable going with neutral so much and not trying to snowball, not trying to overwhelm with momentum. I mean, I know Killick isn't exactly the best with that outside of maybe like Soul Charge. Like, was that something that you had to get used to? Was that something that was easy to get used to?
Well, I'd say I had to get used to it. Kura is incredibly patient.
Yeah.
Like, incredibly patient. And his defense is amazing. Like, he will react to things that, like, okay, Mitsu's, like, 6BB string? He will react to 6BB hold and sidestep it. Like, every single time. Like, every single time.
Yeah.
Like, he has some of these, like, reactions and defense prepared that are just absolutely insane.
I'm trying to remember who it was. Do you remember who Icy Chains was talking about, who was able to react to grow 6A into stance versus 6AA, so he would just GI the second hit of 6AA like every single time, but he would never fall for it in stance. He was telling me about this at one point. Maybe I just imagined it or dreamed it in a nightmare. But people like that for sure blow my mind. I've never been able to understand how they're able to pull something like that off.
It seems like a lot of it is just very prepared. It's not even so much about reactions. It's more so just about like his familiarity with the situation.
Right.
It seems like he's just like labbed out or experienced like so many specific situations that he's got them just on a trigger. Like he can just see it and pull the trigger. So he's very good at that.
There's not a lot of people who do that in the United States, I feel like.
It kind of reminded me of like a super amped up Party Wolf.
Sure.
Like, yeah. Like very patient, very defense oriented, but
never seems to deviate from it.
I think he's a little bit more willing to deviate. I don't know. There's definitely some differences, but it's a similar sort of play style, I think. But yeah, definitely very, very patient, and that was kind of a big thing that I started to abuse during the match, I think.
Sure. Amy is definitely very good at abusing that kind of thing. I know we've been staring at this one screen for a significant amount of time. The only other thing that I wanted to mention before we actually get into the match is, are you looking for anything specific with stages? I guess you're probably feeling fine with quite literally any stage.
I guess Killick ringouts can be kind of annoying.
Amy ringouts are, I would say,
Amy
better,
ringouts are pretty good too.
Yeah.
So I guess there's not really anything in particular I'm looking at. I guess I probably don't want Indian port.
Yeah, just because I hate that stage anyway.
I hate that stage anyway, and also Kura just plays very defensive this whole time.
Right.
Lots of running away.
So you end up getting a small box, which is probably about as good as you can hope for, especially with somebody who is so defensive and so based around neutral. Plus, I think your wall combos are just so much overwhelmingly better.
Depends on the wall combo.
Sure. So yeah, I imagine we're going to be seeing a lot of Killick BB. So
yeah,
immediately right there, you can tell something that I think is very interesting about Kura is that he's totally willing to challenge strings, which you definitely don't get from everybody, even really good players. I'm not saying it's either a good thing or a bad thing, but there are some people who will completely respect strings, and there are some people who will try to challenge them all the time and turn them into a mix. So it's good that you ended up getting lucky on that 3BA where you were effectively correct about the 50-50 mix-up. But I noticed that Solflats is mentioning the 3K, and it is true that Killick does have an option select for 3BA. He's had it since SE4, where he can 3K and beat either me doing 3B into nothing or 3BA. But the fact of the matter is, you're not really getting all that much damage. In fact, you're virtually getting like no damage. You're getting nowhere near the amount of damage that you need to actually condition somebody to think it's a bad idea.
And you're minus on hit.
Yeah. And there's like very little pushback, so Amy's still in your face.
Amy is +2. You got 14 damage. Whoop-de-doo. Amy is +2 in your face.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't think it's worth it. I think it's much better.
I can understand taking the bet in a more traditional sense.
Yeah. I mean, if it's gonna kill, obviously, but.
See, right there, he's challenging you off of AA on block as well.
Right.
But no challenge there. Very interesting. You didn't expect that to hit.
No, I didn't. I was trying to just, like, get him to block it.
Yeah. Trying to catch his backdash with the 4B, I guess. Yeah.
Or just get a counter hit and, like, get him to block the rose.
Not the easiest thing in the world.
I tried a little bit too hard to disrespect him there, I think.
Yeah, I think he got you sucked into his whole thing, which is, la-di-da. Oh, you just immediately went back into it? Ooh. I'm sure the tournament organizers were happy about that.
As long as you're cool with it, they said.
Yeah, very nice. Yeah. Notice he's going into like the monument. What is that? Monument K? The high. Yeah.
Yeah.
He's just doing that in neutral a whole lot. You did not want that.
Nope, I did not. I was trying to sidestep. I was very irritated there because I sidestepped the rising B.
Right.
Punish.
Oh, interesting. You decided to go for a tech crouch there.
Yeah. He's I don't know. He's doing a lot of stuff to just sort of keep me out right now.
Which makes sense. I feel like that's kind of what you have to do.
Right.
In a matchup like this, and just going with infinite tech crouches makes sense.
Tech crouches and just a whole lot of pokes. That's how I tend to fight Kalik when he's in soul charged.
Wow.
Yeah.
So he seems so right off the bat. The first thing that I'm thinking about is the fact that like, while he really doesn't want you to walk away when you put yourself at frame disadvantage, and he's challenging with buttons a lot more than you would expect from a slower character. It almost gets to the point where you could almost turn this into a hot potato match if you liked, where you end up going for something. So 4AA on hit, which effectively means that it's his turn. If he wants to take his turn just by doing a 6-6B or whatever, I mean, hey, okay, I'll block that, and then I just get to go into my better mix-ups again.
A lot of it is, what I did notice here, I think, is that a lot of it is just mostly with the goal of, like, him, like, just trying to keep me out. Like, not trying to really just deny my offense from getting started.
Definitely one of the better Amy players when it comes to fishing for AMS A+B. Definitely an underrated move just overall in neutral for, like, a quote-unquote big bet, but it can be awfully difficult to even punish her when she's doing it.
Yeah.
So a lot of Amy players
unless they like commit to a sidestep, it doesn't really feel like it's that risky. Because if they're committing to a sidestep, that's kind of big, and it's not like you can do it on reaction.
And to be honest, if you delay the AMS A+B, like you do AMS and then you wait for as long as you can before the A+B comes out, I find that it catches sidestep much better than it should, like a traditional Soul Calibur 6 move.
Right.
Immediately, interesting to note, immediate tech up to the side, so you automatically know he's going to get away from the low parry K there.
Right.
Oh man, no, if you were a real Amy player, you would have mid-parried that back turn K. you know it's coming.
I tried to hit confirm the 4AA, but...
Right. It's more difficult than I think it should be in this game.
Again, I'm just kind of trying to run in on him and everything. Yeah, not scared of Monument.
Oh, interesting. Okay. So he ends up taking that just overall with a lot of neutral stuff, coupled with like a handful of like misinputs. I guess the guy's gonna try to make sure that everything's okay with the controller issues and such.
Yeah. That's what he's doing.
But yeah, overall, I don't think it took you that long to get your roses. It'll take like a round and a half, I think.
Yeah. I think I got them like a round and a half. I think a lot of what I think really what caused me to lose that first game was just a lot of. I felt like I was kind of just like sort of banging my head against the wall with him.
There's so many unique situations, frame situations up close, that Amy has to test out to figure out what the opponent's going to do. And in order to build a player profile in a first to two, it can be pretty scary. You almost assuredly are not going to build a full profile as to what the opponent's reactions are going to be like in enough time. And that is always the most frustrating thing, is that you kind of have to work with what you got. Like, as if like you're in the middle of a school project and you have to go and present it, but you're only like 80% done. So it can be, it can be very frustrating.
Yeah.
Get about again pretty neutral stage. Probably a little bit better for Kura in terms of what his playstyle is.
I feel like it's still pretty
Yeah.
neutral. I don't think it really bothered me that much either way. I don't know what. I don't really remember what I was doing with those empty AMSs.
Just trying to get in, I guess.
It was on. Yeah, I think that's pretty much it.
Yeah. You could, instead of going for like a 4B to try and catch movement, you could go immediately into something like low parry A, but as I'm saying it, I can see how that might not be a good idea.
I think what you can notice already in this round is that I'm trying to
create more whiffs.
Pretty much, yeah. I'm trying to put a lot more stock into my movement because he's trying really hard to keep me out.
Right.
So I'm just kind of, basically I decided to just kind of like weave, I guess. Like, I'm not relinquishing my pressure. I'm not like, running away from him, like playing the spacing game. I'm running in, but I'm also running out. Like, I'm keeping sort of a mid-range.
And I think this is something that is very underrated with Amy, is that traditionally speaking, you would think Amy is the character that has to get in this kind of a matchup because Killick has the longer range. But I actually think Killick isn't the best at just, especially once you get red, at dealing with just overall mid-range zoning from Amy. Like, I think that he can actually fall apart to something like that, especially if you're utilizing the majority of the moves that you get from red. AMS A+B, not so much 4BB anymore, although that used to be a heavy thing. And just, rather than going for mix-ups and allowing him to challenge with buttons up close, you just allow the whole mid-range thing to unfold as it should overall, and which I find to be counterintuitive to a lot of people.
Right.
Yeah, going for 6-6B, the new 6-6B counter hit.
Yeah. I really love the AMSB after AMSA plus B. No
Yeah.
one does that, I think. I think it's so good.
I think the problem is, though, is that you, I don't know if you can react to it, because I just noticed that you did AMS empty into AMS again because he rolled back on the similar Oki kind of situation. I tend to just take a bet on the AMSB, and so if they end up rolling back, I get screwed pretty heavily.
Yeah, you kind of, like, you have to measure it, right? Because, if they know that they can roll back, they'll roll back.
Yeah.
Right? But against people who don't know that, it's
oh yeah, then it's a complete farce. Immediately you get Oki in a situation that you don't necessarily get Oki.
Right. I feel like I feel like I can tend to be able to suss out pretty quickly who knows to back roll and who doesn't.
Right.
That was pretty cool.
Yeah. I don't know if cool's like the first word I would use, but ooh, interesting. He's a GI on Whiffer.
Yeah.
Definitely different than the Philly thing, which is whiffing the duck.
Bit of both.
Yeah. One of the other things that you could do, and I'm not sure that if you, I'm sure you did, but similar to what you were talking about with relying on your movement to try and deal with the fact that he's trying to keep you out with buttons, did you ever think about, instead of using movement to do it, to use parries instead?
It just seems a little like
more risky or more committal?
Yeah, it's like so much more committal for what is often less of a reward.
Sure.
When I could just be putting myself consistently in a pretty favorable situation, honestly, just sticking at that mid-range. I mean, Amy's so good at that, I think. That like, especially in the first to two, I just don't see why I would take the risk when I can already be, like, as if I'm hovering in that mid-range, right? And let's say he isn't whiffing, I can just foray the shit out of him.
Yeah.
Like, there's not really, I'm not really putting myself in a situation where I'm necessarily losing unless I make a mistake. Whereas a parry is, it's not airtight like that.
Yeah.
You know, it's a call out. Like if I have the call out, I'll go for it. But it's
word to the wise. It's something that I see a lot of players do. I mean, Amy has the best reverse mix of kind of stuff in the game, but for one, sometimes the threat in and of itself can be enough to make people feel like they need to stutter their offense or mix up hit levels when they don't necessarily want to. But also on top of it, I feel like a lot of people underestimate just how heavy of a bet they can be. With Amy, who's probably where it's like the least amount of bet, but I'm just talking about other characters that have auto GIs as well, where they clearly want to go for something that's really heavy, and I find when I'm in a situation where I realize that when I put my opponent against the back foot and they go for auto GIs, all I have to do is just run up into their face and just wait. I don't even necessarily have to take a bet. I can allow them to take the bet for me, and then they're going to get screwed. It's a little bit easier to get away with that kind of stuff online, as most things are. But for the most part, it's a much bigger commitment than one might expect.
It is a little trickier with Amy, I think, just because she... specifically mid parry, I don't think you can like counter hit mid parry on reaction. I think that if you think she's going to mid parry, you need to sort of take a bet on it and like delay something or do another hit level. But
I think you could. I think you would have to be specifically looking for it. You would have to be taking a bet that the mid parry is going to be happening here, and then effectively reacting to the flash with a button that you already had stocked up.
Yeah, I think the best you're gonna get is like an AA though.
Yeah.
If you have an I-12C, you could probably do that.
Yeah, if you want to be a beast. I was frankly thinking about what it's like when you do like Amy mirrors, and in which case what I'm trying to get is a 6BB. May not necessarily be the most optimal way of going about it.
Yeah. Less committal though. So.
Even to this day, another jump, boy howdy. Yeah. Wait, were you back turn there? You could have gotten a back turn B plus K? Yeah, you were. You could have gotten a back turn B plus K.
He had been like spending a lot of time specifically counterplaying back turn B plus K. So
nice.
And there it is. That's what I'm talking about. Like the movement, not trying to like stick my neck out necessarily.
Now that being said, Kura could have gone with a horizontal to try and keep you from reaching that kind of thing, but he had been going for that move, especially in the first game, kind of a lot. Especially when he was in especially when he was in Soul Charge. When either of you were in Soul Charge.
Right. That is true. I don't know if he would have had the frames to have actually caught. But yeah, I guess that's the key there. I'm not sure if he would have actually caught me with a step kill.
Do you ever get into a situation where you get a stage where you feel like it's your favor, you end up losing on it, you switch the stage, you end up winning on it, then you go back to the stage that was in your head, in your favor, but then you have to deal with the fact that you lost on it before. Is that ever something that like you have to wrestle with in your mind? Because that's definitely something that I've had to deal with.
Probably. I don't think I was really thinking about it here. I think I was just kind of like, I think when I switched that stage, it was more so just like, okay, that game was somewhat decisive. So now I associate that with that.
Yeah.
So I just want to not look at it anymore. That's a lot of the reason I switch the stage when I'm playing in tournaments sometimes.
And with a character like Killick, you don't necessarily have to worry about getting screwed on what the next stage is going to be. You're not dealing with, okay, I got this person in a small box. Do I really want to change the stage because they could end up getting a ring out stage and this character's ridiculously good with ring outs? You don't necessarily have to worry about that with Killick.
Yeah. I mean, his ring outs are definitely there and they're definitely threatening, but sorry.
Yeah, it's not really the same thing. Okay, interesting. It was the first time you decided to challenge with 6-6A. Wow, that was a hell of a duck.
Yeah, right?
He immediately looks like he's going to be challenging with buttons yet again, actually going for like the true punish, which again makes sense. Yellow life, no roses. This is bad news.
Yeah.
This is a very typical situation in which Amy's become very easy to beat because they get rose blind, what I like to call rose blind, where they will go out of their way, neutral be damned, I need to salvage this round with something, and it's certainly not going to be with 4A and 3A, so I'm just going to go with just taking a bet, and unfortunately, once again, as I tell Amy players all the time, your bet for getting a rose is either 1B or 3B. They both lose to the same thing, so I don't know if you want to do it.
Yeah, it's especially against someone like Kura, who just like plays such a patient game. Very airtight defense, like I said. Playing that sort of like clearly somewhat panicky sort of offense, I think really isn't going to work against him. You need to be more measured, which is kind of what I kind of wanted to talk about this, is that like that's kind of what I was going for with the movement, was like I'm going to make this defensive zoning, or maybe you don't want to call it zoning, keep out, whatever. I'm going to make it much riskier for him, right, by playing a mid-range heavy game, right? And so then his counterplay is to sort of, ease up a little bit. Don't try so hard to keep me out, especially since I'm not actually trying to come in. But then the thing is with Amy is that I don't necessarily need to come in to pressure you because I have 4A. Yeah. Like I can just wait until you've eased up on your defense and then start really getting into the pressure, because it's not just 4A, it's also like AMS pressure.
AMS pressure, 4B, even without red roses. 6-6B as like a whiff punish can guarantee you a rose in and of itself. Yeah, there's plenty of stuff that you can pull off. Obviously, the problem is that with this kind of a life lead, I mean, you're going to have to be right so many times. It's certainly possible, as I always tell a lot of Amy players, it's certainly possible to win with 3A, 4A, 4B and stuff and not get any roses and just win out the round. But against a guy like Kura, I mean, yeah, I guess anything's possible. I guess you could try to rely on that. What's that?
What? Nothing.
Let me see. Wow, okay. Yeah, you weren't kidding about this mid-range kind of stuff.
Yeah. Not going in, not leaving him alone, just kind of forcing the same range.
I like the fact that he was kind of flummoxed, and it's kind of funny because in this situation here, this is probably like the most interesting. I love this right here is probably the most interesting part of this match so far. This is something that I would want to look at aloud. Is that the fact that so he got you at this low life, and then he neutral guard, he was just statue guarding once you got this first rose.
Yeah,
look at that. That was like 2.5 full seconds of doing what I think is the number one thing that you shouldn't do. But also at the same time, you were far enough away to where, I probably would have gotten baited by that. I would be like, wow, he's actually going to give me an opportunity to get another rose? This is exactly what I want him to do. And then he'd be like, well, that's exactly what I wanted you to think. The second that because he definitely still has the time to recognize your dash forward and then immediately just try to go into a sidestep or a small move. And even if he's wrong about one of those kinds of things, he's not going to eat a lot of damage and he's not going to eat a rose. So might as well go for something like that. So I'm curious. I would love to hear what his thoughts were on something like that. Maybe he just panicked. Maybe I'm reading too far into it, but still very interesting. Nice bait. Oh, why didn't that? No.
Yeah, I guess I was late. I'm not really sure.
Challenged yet again. That is, what is that? 2 out of 3 times there's been a 3BA, and you've gone for 3BA all 3 times, but yet he still has, he's still done it twice.
Maybe it was something from our casuals. I don't entirely remember where I've been going for 3B, but I don't really remember doing that.
Yeah, I don't think that you've gone for 3B on its own at all during the set, and it's been reaping you pretty heavy dividends. So you're going into 3 roses now.
Oh, that was where I was like, okay, he had been back rolling there every single time. He had been back rolling every single time. So I guess that was a call out.
I'm still frankly kind of surprised that it had the hitbox. I never rely on AMS A plus B without roses as a hitbox. Really.
Oh yeah, that catches back roll. Yeah. If it'll do anything else, it'll catch back roll.
Yeah, it tends to be that I force myself to use 4B instead, which again is not anywhere near as good. It doesn't give you a rose, but still, yeah. Man, that was pretty gigantic. You turned a wholeheartedly losing situation into full meter, full roses.
Yeah.
It's about like a huge swing as possible. Once you get into a situation like this, especially for a character that I don't really think has the same level of comeback, I guess he doesn't soul charge, but other than that, I mean, it's just real tough. It's real tough to get out of it. Wait, hold on a second. Let me go back to that. For one, I wanted to note that I appreciate the fact that you go, even though it meant you lost a lot of damage here, I appreciate just going for Rose. I think this is an underrated technique. Yeah, you're going to lose out on a lot of damage, but the fact of the matter is, anybody who knows anything about Amy and Soul Charge nowadays knows Soul Charge activation, here comes a Rose. That's always going to... Yeah.
Yep. Yeah.
Mathlete asking, Link is choosing to RE Monument?
Yeah, it's just, you just tap the button. Yeah. You don't have to, it's just much easier.
You're not actually confirming anything, that's just the thing you do once you see that...
yeah, I just see Monument come out. Yeah, I just see Monument come out, press the button. Because I have it on a bind, so... Just
but also, again, the 4th or 5th 3B, and again he's challenging. He didn't actually go with a challenge that beat regular 3B.
Yeah, he had the right idea.
Yeah, well, he was going for something, because you had gone for the full string each time. Very, very interesting choice. Zendo saying that the RE is actually much riskier. Is that actually the case?
Is it?
As far as I know.
When we played casuals, okay, so when we had played casuals, I was GIing it, right? Because, it's not tournament. I don't have to worry about the fact that it's much easier to just press the single button. What he had been doing was he had been just doing Monument, nothing. Empty Monument, A plus B.
Statement. Right.
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, there's definitely a risk associated with GI there. But, yeah, I mean, the answer for why I'm doing RE is just that it's so much easier. Just tap the button. And I'm not really worried about him doing other options, especially in a first to 2.
I'm kind of surprised he didn't realize that the 4A was going to be coming here after the jump B. I feel like this is always the way to go in a situation like that.
Just to touch on the Monument thing one more time real quick. So he and another big reason I'm not really scared from going for the other options is because if you want Monument to not be regiable in those situations where it isn't regiable, you can't hit confirm the A. You have to just go straight into raw Monument A. So, unless he's fishing for that A plus B lethal hit, or unless he's fishing for the K or whatever, he's not really going to get anything out of doing a delayed Monument because he'll never get the lethal hit that way ever. So that's why I wasn't so...
Yeah, playing with the options versus a player that you had been playing against earlier on in the weekend.
Yeah.
Who, bit of a bet. 6BB I find is pretty good against Killick stance pressure whenever it happens too.
Yeah.
Nice.
I love doing that.
Yeah. Oh man, the blue boy.
Yep.
Actually, the blue boy is 1B on hit, walk 1B. Around a little bit, and then 1B.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Wow, that last little hitbox, how rude.
That's insane, dude.
Boop. Oh, wow.
Why? Wasn't sure I'd have time to whiff punish.
Yeah, relatively good punish. In and of itself. Bound to happen at some point.
Again, that's not real. But I from our matches earlier, I just had figured it was.
Yeah, it's something else that I'm noticing, and this is something that I do a lot as well, which is when you are far away from your opponent, when you're far enough away to where you can't necessarily challenge him with a 4AA or something like that, you will go for AMS for the tech crouch to go in. And I imagine this is something that you do against some characters, but not all characters. Would I be correct in that?
Just in terms of...
Well,
just going into
presumably,
AMS?
yeah, you're using AMS to try to deal with... So he's at a range on hit there where he's still going to have to try and keep you out from like a 6-6A or something like that. And most people will try to go for a high in that situation. Are you trying to use AMS just to get in, or are you trying to use it as a tech crouch as well?
I mean, a bit of both. That's pretty much how I always use AMS. But which is what makes it so good at getting in, is that it has a tech crouch. So
Gigantic
there's
one
that. Yeah. But also just like, I mean, what's he going to hit me with here that'll stop me from doing AMS? Maybe like B6? It's a bit of a bet, though, and especially with how I've been using my movement in the match, right? I would be surprised if he had gone for like some sort of immediate keep out option to like stuff AMS, because of how much he'd been like getting whiff punished for that kind of thing. So I guess that was probably the
Right.
Yeah.
You weren't worried at all about him potentially just letting you kill yourself by going with AMSB? That's what always happens to me.
Well, I mean, I didn't do AMSB. I just did empty AMS.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
Mid parry. Oh, I would have been wrong.
Yeah, there
assumed.
I was way too antsy there. I even CE'd, actually. I just saw the button and tried
It didn't take the meter, right? Or did it? No,
it did.
Oh, it did? I missed it. Yeah, it did. Did you do red or white?
I did red.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, a bit too antsy. Yeah. This is where your tier experience will be your downfall. This is something I've noticed when I play Amy nowadays, is that it's just like, oh, I'm trying to like do something
I'm already do that.
with an I-16 AA, and that's the kind of thing that I'm always worried about with regards to AMSB, is that ever since, it's a real shame you didn't play Amy in the heydays where he would have definitely had to still block the AMSB.
Just to say, though, I kind of felt like I did that, and I kind of felt totally okay with it. Like, I got him off the bar. He already, like, I'd already hit him a few times, so this life lead is pretty minor. And he's not in soul charge anymore.
Right.
So, like, and it's not like it gives him, like, pressure on hit or whatever.
Yeah, there's, like, no Oki to it anyway.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to say I did it intentionally to get him off the meter, right?
But the fact of the matter is, you're mitigating, you're using the fact that you have a round advantage to your advantage.
Yeah, that thought was in my head, where I was just kind of like, well, I mean, I'll go for this, and if he sidesteps it, meh. Not that big a deal to me.
Right.
So that's kind of why I did it.
Token Black Dude, I really like this. Getting players to explain their thought process from a tournament is low-key eye-opening. I've been doing it for years, and this is I agree with you. This is the whole reason why I started doing this format like back in like 2014. All right, he's still going with movement. He's not going for buttons as much anymore. Okay.
That's something I was doing a lot in this tournament, actually, 6xBA.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
People get very nervous about
that. Now that one, I feel comfortable.
This was so important. This was so important. The fact that he spent his meter there.
Oh,
the second he
totally
spent his meter there, I was like, oh yes, I have 2 full bars. He has nothing, and I have red.
Yeah. So if I'm you, I'm doing again the blue boy thing of just run up soul charge. Is that what you end up doing?
No, it's not. That's something that I kind of learned from this tournament, is to just be more proactive with my meter with Amy.
Right. Yeah, because again, you're a character that builds so much, so often, that you might as well just go for it every time. Like, I effectively use it like I would with Astaroth at this point, where I'm not necessarily thinking about a strategy to Soul Charge activate anymore. I am simply activating Soul Charge because I can, and because I want to.
It's definitely something I do with other characters, but I don't think I do it enough with Amy.
Zeno saying, do you think he should have not spent his meter there? No, the idea is that he was effectively forced to spend his meter in that situation because that was the only way to win the round, which is, again, using the round advantage to your advantage. Oh boy, 3 beyond block into back grab. Oh, I remember the situation. Yes. I remember it so beautifully now. I could not believe how ballsy you were being to rely on a CE whiff punish as opposed to using your meter for a soul charge instead. I could have sworn, like, if you put me in this situation of watching you do this 100 times in a row, 100 times I'm like, well, he's going to lose. There's no way that he's going to pull this off.
I mean, it was honestly pretty lucky.
It's a very tight situation. That certainly makes it a lot easier to win. Would White CE have killed here?
But
no.
Hold on. I mean, maybe some people who are watching haven't seen it, so we should actually probably let it play out before we...
Who, again, very lucky.
Yeah.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah. I was kind of, I don't know. Like I said, I was kind of
Hold
lucky.
on. I want to see your reaction here. Yeah, where it's almost as if somebody put a chill down up your spine. It was great. Like, hold on. The second that the CE look at Link's window. That's
very
pretty solid.
animated.
Yeah. I wish I could do that.
I felt bad because Kura didn't realize it was 2 out of 3.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Oh, yes. Yeah. I totally forgot about that.
Yeah.
God, that sucks.
Yeah, that really does kind of suck, doesn't it? I don't know
God,
what
look
to
at him
say
just
about
standing
that.
there. He's not even seeing, like, winner and defeat. Does he know English well at all?
knows
No,
it
right?
He knows it okay. Not, I wouldn't say well.
Does he know
well.
speaking it, or does he know the actual text of it? I do not want to see Destroyers
A little
MKX
bit of
Resurrection
both.
Tournament.
A little bit of both,
Okay,
I'd say.
I'm not sure if he knows, like, winner and defeat.
He probably does know winner and defeat, but maybe he just wasn't looking. He was probably, again, he thought it was still happening, so he was
Right.
probably wrapped up in that. So yeah.
Definitely a very good exercise of utilizing movement with what would be archetypically be the shorter range character. Simply because you are the shorter range character does not necessarily mean you had to pigeonhole yourself in a situation where, I mean, perhaps it's unfair of me to just straight up say shorter range character when
I was gonna say, I really feel like
even without red, I guess it is more than possible to compete in the mid range. But I would say that out of these two characters, Killick is the one that is cookie cuttery, typically supposed to be keeping you out, and you're the one that's supposed to be going in. But I just mean to say that it is a little. It can be played and should be played a little bit more nuanced and subtle than that. It is possible to go in and out of a character's range, even if the range might be considered bigger.
yeah. It's just, I don't know. I like you said, maybe if it's like classically considered that way, like you don't want to let that get into your head, right? The idea, the concepts of what the characters are supposed to be for. But I do feel like, I mean, there is that concept that Amy is like, a shorter range character, but I don't even really think it's true, honestly.
Yeah.
I think before the 4AA nerf, I would say she had the best neutral in the game.
Who do you think has better neutral now?
I don't know. I mean, Gloomy Tira. But
Oh, sure.
yeah, I think there's a few characters probably. But even then, the point that I'm trying to illustrate more so is just that, like, I think she's incredibly powerful at mid range. And I think that I don't see as many Amy players put as much of an emphasis on that.
Yeah, I find that a lot of Amy players, and I'm guilty of it myself, end up just going through the motions of, like, the millisecond something happens that you don't necessarily like, the millisecond that you realize that you're on the back foot, you have to go for some sort of intense mix-up and faster timing kind of counter-hit baiting, when you still have the ability to take it slow. We had that one round where it was almost decidedly that you were going to lose, and you ended up getting all the meter, all the roses, and the round win. So it's definitely still wholeheartedly possible, and playing Amy can be done in a little bit more of a subtle way than I think was initially thought about.
And I think, I don't know, there's more to it. Like, I find that when I'm panicking, what I tend to do is, typically at least, is like clam up, like which is maybe different from what some other people do. Typically, when people panic, I think they might like mash more buttons. But I tend
if they started with Amy, I could definitely say that they would start mashing more buttons. Yeah.
So what I tend to do is just clam up, play super defensive, not try to push my offense, which I don't think is the answer either at all. I mean, her pressure is incredibly strong, right?
Just her being in your face is enough to force somebody to make a decision.
Yeah, I was saying I was saying this to Blue at the event, right? I think we were actually talking about me playing Kura. What I was saying to him was like, so again, I do think I put a lot of emphasis on neutral with my Amy, right? But even when we're playing neutral, mid-range, the game is still about my pressure. Because the reason you don't want me to be in your face is because of how good my pressure is, and that's probably why we're playing neutral.
Yeah.
Like there's always that threat of it. You always have to keep it in mind.
It is always the elephant in the room. Everything with regards to the meta between the two characters starts with that. And then everything builds on top of it. But if you don't think about the first thing in and of itself, yes, is that effectively she's virtually. I always say that conditioning barely exists in this game. That characters will always go for their most prominent options simply because they are so good, cover so many options, and do so much damage, give them so much utility. Amy is one of the very, very few characters in the game, maybe the only character in the game, that actually can condition you to say that you and I both know that I'm going for this, and you have to worry about it. You can't simply ignore it and do whatever your character's good at. You have to be worried about what I can do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I appreciate that.
And again, I think it feeds so well into her ability to play defensively, because people are always going to be antsier against you as Amy, because they have to be worried about it. They can't, like you said, they can't ignore it. They cannot ignore how strong her pressure is, and I think that was a lot of what was happening in this match, was that Kura was just really trying to keep me out, like he was really trying to keep me out and trying to deny that pressure. But instead of just like jamming my face against it, I think a lot of what I did was to sort of flow with it more, being like, he's like, okay, he's trying really hard to keep me out, right? But there's an answer to that, which is, again, that sort of more mid-range heavy type gameplay. I definitely did get lucky on a lot of things in this match, to be honest, but I do still think that sort of adjustment that I had was at the very least what led it to be
it's what saved the day for sure.
Yeah, it's what. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I agree. Probably somebody else like me would probably like start going into parries, if only because my movement isn't as good. But that has its place in the sense of it will definitely guarantee me a handful more games had I not done that, but it will also guarantee that like I would have lost this set overall, just based on like the law of averages, because it is a heavier read than just moving around.
It's a bit tricky to say, especially in first to two. It's so much trickier to say either way. That's a big reason you see me go for parries less here, is just because, like, parries, betting stuff on a parry in a first to two, just, I really don't like it.
Right.
Like, in the first to threes, you'll see me do a lot more parry stuff, actually. And, like, when I play casuals, I tend to do a lot more on parries. But in a lot of the first to twos, it just didn't feel worth it.
Yeah.
Yeah. It feels like so much safer to just bet stuff on my movement. Well, not even bet stuff on my movement, just base stuff on my movement.
That's the whole idea, is that you're not betting on anything.
Exactly.
You're allowing yourself. Maybe once I get back into offline gameplay, I will feel more confident in going for movement again. At this point, I feel like it's impossible to move. Like, I always end up getting hit by. I will get counter hit for breathing. I will get. It really stinks. But
going back and playing online has been.
Yes, I can't imagine what it would be like. I was even telling you not to play a new character because that character will be wholeheartedly spoiled by the already inevitable spoiling of playing online again. That sounds like it's going to be terrible.
That's actually a lot of why I was playing Tira, actually, for that reason, because, like, man, playing Amy offline was so good. It felt so nice. I want to keep that fresh in my head.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, it always takes a bit of, like, back when I would, like, play in SE5 tournaments, and then I would come back home, and that PlayStation would just be staring at me, and then, like, a week would go by, and I wouldn't play at all, and I'm like, no, I'm not playing. I'm not playing. This is going to be good. I'm going to remember what it was like to have my eyes back.
But yeah. It was, I don't know. It was a good match.
It was a very good match, and I appreciate the fact that you wanted to talk to me about it. Before I end up wrapping things up, is there anything else that you wanted to talk about?
Yeah, I mean, so what's up with the fact that, so after you kill Murgo's wet nurse, right?
Mm-hmm.
Gascoigne's wife's corpse disappears from the graveyard.
Yeah.
What's up with that?
What do you mean?
Why does that happen?
I mean, it's blood. I mean, it's Yarnum. The corpses are everywhere and nowhere at the same time. I'm sure somebody just got them.
Yeah, but why specifically after? I mean, that's like right at the end of the game.
Enough time has elapsed.
I don't know, but it's the only one that disappears. It's the only one that disappears in the entire game.
That's not true. There's a whole bunch of people that you kill that end up disappearing when you go back.
It's the only, like, static corpse.
What do you mean static corpse?
We can talk about this
Static
later.
Corpse is a good name for a band. We'll talk about this later.
Yeah.
But I wanted to thank Linkorz for helping me out with this analysis of offline Amy, which we have not seen in such a long time. Again, I hope to have videos with at least the majority of the people that were involved in the We Play Ukrainian tournament. I want to thank everybody for showing up during the live stream, and thanks everybody who's watching. If you want to see this kind of stuff live, you can see the Twitch link down below, and I will see you guys next time. All right, thanks very much.
Bye.